everybody. Today I am with a good friend of all of ours at this point. You've all got to know him and love him. I feel like that's like an entry to a, TV show or something. You know him. My friend and colleague, Freddy Mendoza from good old Arizona, my neighbor. Um, yeah, we are back here again. Freddie, I wanted to specifically highlight, we talked about this a little bit before. One of the many aspects of what you bring to the community and to the world, which is that for the past definitely over a year, I don't even know how long, you'll tell us that you've really been investing a whole lot in creating opportunities for the Nurture Heart community to connect, whether it's for the trainer community, posting weekly videos for them, and creating bi-monthly, connection series. If you're a trainer, you don't know about them, please do reach out and I will get you connected, or reach out to Freddie. But also for anybody, there's these Wednesday recognition calls for all of you who would love to join a Nurtured Heart experiential of just sitting and feeling and knowing what it could look like every Wednesday, just like from your heart, and just connections with people like all over the place all the time, giving of yourself in the coaching, giving of yourself in responses. So apparently this is all very important to you, because so much, like, I think all of it is really just coming from your generosity and graciousness of your heart. So I am curious to hear more about kind of where this came from, or why you do this, and what you can tell us about this part of yourself.
Wow. Well, hello. It's good to be back. Community is 100% a passion, and it has my whole heart. So it's an interesting question. I've been very focused since the attack and war in Israel on isolation and just feeling betrayed, feeling isolated, feeling let down by even people we thought were allied. So that's like already a year and a half of focus, but plainly the interest started before then. But my point to that is that community is the antidote to those feelings of being isolated and being depressed and being alone. Prior to that, right around the same time as I was formally introduced to the Nurtured Heart community, was the pandemic, which again was a multiplying factor of people not being able to connect, not being in person, feeling isolated, feeling all kinds of overwhelm, really, and chaos and fear. And again, to me, community is the antidote. Going back further, I think just me as a human being, I bring my people with me everywhere I go. So like even in the Nurtured Heart world, I became a trainer, and then my mom and my daughter became a trainer. We're all talking about Nurtured Heart all the time. I do that with many things. Nurtured Heart is just the latest endeavor of those things. So community to me is so important. I think there was a proverb that caught my attention maybe when I was in high school that said, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And I know that was always a frustration to me as a person who seems to be faster and more active than a lot of people, is I want to just go. I want to go. I don't want to wait. Oh my gosh, what do you mean you're not ready yet? What do you mean? Let's just go. But I know that especially when things are challenging, or when it's more than just about going far or going fast, when it's about going further or going for longer or enjoying the trip, then going together is so much more important. Coming to me right now is a couple stories, if you don't mind. I was thinking, I was a high school educator and teacher and administrator and coach for grades 9 through 12 for about 20 years. So most of my adult life. And there was one story when you asked me about community that just kept popping into my head. So might as well share it, or into my heart, I guess, more so than my head. We were always a very small school, about 120 to 150 students, depending on the year, about 8 to 10 teachers. So we could all sit around one table every morning, and there's a lot of community there. But we also had advisory group. And so advisory group is kind of like a homeroom or something like that. I'm sure lots of schools call it different things. We made sure it was a mixed grade level. So there were ninth graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders, group of about 20. And we met 2 times a week at least. First thing Monday morning, last thing Friday afternoon, and sometimes on Wednesdays. Kind of like a buffer to the week, or more specifically to the weekend. For many of our students, their home lives were not comfortable or supportive. So school was their safety zone. And the reason I share this about community is this particular story. So we have ninth graders through 12th graders, about 20 kids. I introduced them to a token ceremony. And what a token ceremony is very simple. I found little, I have tchotchke coming to my mind. I don't know if that's the right word, but little dime store kind of stones or gems or nothing fancy. But I brought them in a big bag and I explained what a token is, which is an item that may or may not have a lot of actual value, but we invest it with value, with our intentions and our words and our thoughts. And so when I gathered us together, we got in a circle and anybody could nominate anybody else for a token at any point we were together. And when you received a token, you got to either choose a token to give to someone, or you could just name them and they would get to choose their token from the bag so they could get one that they liked. But then you had to tell them why you were nominating them, or invest the meaning into this token. And I saw students say things, ninth graders to 12th graders, or more importantly, 12th graders to ninth graders, that would never have happened normally. They would give each other a token because they made it to school, even though their parents were fighting. You know, most high school kids don't even know that about each other, certainly wouldn't share it in a group setting. These kids would. And then they made necklaces or bracelets from their tokens. Sometimes I would see a student 5 or 6 years after graduation and they still had their tokens. So the reason I shared that is that's community. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of shared purpose. It allows trust. It allows for everyone to feel safe, which, by the way, as an educator, that's Maslow's pyramid, right? You can't do any learning until you feel safe and connected in a sense of belonging anyways. So it seems like it's off curriculum. It seems like it's not a lesson plan. It's certainly no state standard, but it's the basis for allowing us to get into everything else. So I hope that story helps. I got one more just from my own self, because I turned 50. I am trying to get myself back in shape. So I started some old workouts, and it's crazy how I am no longer in soccer shape. But what I learned is a lesson I've learned many, many times over my life, but about physically trying to get fit. If I'm alone, I'm a very, very weak man. I'll jog for half a mile, I'll get tired, and I'll stop. I'll convince myself I'm going to do these squats or these push-ups or whatever it is, go on this hike. But if it gets hard, I push through once, I push through twice, maybe. I give myself all kinds of kudos for how tough and strong and motivated I am, and then I stop. But oh my gosh, you put a team with me. You put a team with me, and now we're struggling together. And now we're sharing the pain and the misery together. We're almost laughing about it. And also the celebrations get more exciting too when we're not alone. But I'm just pointing out, I multiply my usefulness, my motivation, my desire to keep going, my joy when things go well, multiplies exponentially when I'm with a group, especially a group I feel connected to, I share a passion with, we share experience with. So long-winded to say that's what I see in community. When I see these teachers and parents, therapists, early entrepreneurs trying to make a business, they're isolated. They think they're the only ones dealing with these struggles. They think when they schedule something and, only one person shows up or no one shows up, they think they're the only one and everybody else is having all this success. And why? So community allows us to communicate and share authentically, regulate some of the struggle or normalize some of the struggle, find a shared language, a shared experience, learn from each other. It's great to learn from our own mistakes. I certainly value that, but it's way faster and less painful if I can learn from somebody else's mistakes. So That was a lot. I know. I'm so excited though to. No one's asked me this actually. It's very pleasant to. I was like, huh. I don't know that I've ever thought about it. So yeah, so that's my initial thought.
Wow, I love that. I've had many thoughts. I don't know that I'm going to remember any of them. Um, but yeah, it's powerful stories. I relate a lot to a lot of it, um, especially the working out thing, um, and needing, that support and what it looks like to have the people with you and the connection. Oh, this was one thought. Okay, so this was my latest thought is that this is like kind of in person versus online, which there is a lot to say about online community, and COVID has taught us that. And I think that's a gift because we are, humans spread so far apart, and it's made the world a lot smaller for sure, and open connections that wouldn't be possible otherwise. But there is something to be said about in person, real live human connection. Um, there's a course going on now within the community. It's a religious course. It's like a review class, and I wanted to be a part of it. And so I basically like committed as best as I can, But the first week I had to join virtual because I wasn't able to be there in person, and I had to really like have a lot of self control and like focus and determination to get through it, and not like I was watching myself distract. I was watching myself scroll. I was watching myself like be edgy and want to. And then this last week I went in person. I had the time of I had so much fun, and it wasn't a different format, but I was so happy to be there, and it just felt so different. It felt so easy to sit through. And it was just, we were sitting together. We were sitting together. We were all there. We were all experiencing it. People did share, but it wasn't even that format. It was really a frontal format. It wasn't such a discussion, but even so, it just felt so good to be there together. And it made it a fun, happy, light experience, versus a really hard push through kind. And also, oh my gosh, that normalizing piece that you said about like hearing other people say the very things that you thought you're the only person in the world who's ever experienced or ever experiences is like, what? I'm not alone. I remember my very first, I've shared this, I think openly in the past, but I have been through a 12-step journey. And the very first, one of the very first meetings I went to, wasn't the very first meeting I went to, but one of the very first fellowships that I like landed in and stuck with, I eventually moved on from, because what I found was that there wasn't a whole lot of recovery and growth there. It was more of like a pity party, and everyone was just kind of sharing how miserable their lives are and what victims they are. But that was in itself was so powerful for me. And I don't know if I would have been able to grow forward without first having the validation of all these people who are sitting and complaining, which isn't necessarily effective in growth, but this about the same things. It was like, I am that realization of I am not alone was so powerful in and of itself for me to just not be alone.
Yeah, I have a 12-step experience also as a child or young person in Alateen, and similar experience. I didn't like the dwelling and the whining, but I did so have my whole world opened up by the other people were sharing similar experiences, and I wasn't again alone. I guess I wanna push on this a little bit, because I love what you brought up, in person and virtual, and like there's an art and a science to it. Like let's be real, just being together isn't community. Sometimes we're more alone in a large group than we are anywhere else. So I hope everybody can hear that. There's a way to make virtual the most intimate, personal, connecting thing that we have access to. In our big trainings, sometimes 100, 200 people I'm remembering the hotel conference room. And so I'll maybe normalize a struggle for someone else. I don't know if I'm neurodiverse or neurospicy. I like that term better. Or all my just social hangups. But when I'm in a room of 100 or 200 people, depending on my age and stage here, I'm trying to flirt with someone. I'm trying to avoid someone. I'm trying to sit by the light or near the plant, or I don't want to have my back towards the door. That freaks me out. I don't like people behind me, but I don't want to be the bad kid in the back seat. I want to be in the front seat. But if I'm in the front seat, then everybody's behind me. And if I'm in the middle, I'm literally just looking at a bunch of people's back of their heads and one dude way up front that I can barely even see. And somebody's asking me to pass the water and somebody else is telling a joke and this woman is wearing this perfume that's overwhelming me. Like, my learning opportunity is incredibly small. I love the feeling. I love the connection. I love being able to joke with guys in the hallway, on the way to the bathroom or on the quick break. I love the connection. But the learning, if I'm being honest, but even the intimate, like, because you take that same training and do it well virtually, and you're still going to get breakouts and conversation. But now, like you and I right now, even though we're 130 miles apart or something, I'm looking at your face from a foot away, right? I'm not seeing in the back of anybody's heads. I'm not getting distracted by anything else. So I love that. I also want to say that same thing can exist to our in-person gatherings, though. Again, there's an art and a science to building community. There's an art and a science to having people feel that psychological safety and like they belong. And this is probably the most important question, actually. I hope this is useful to everybody. It opened up a whole lot for me when I thought it. Whenever any human being is entering a group, whether 2 people, 5 people, 1,000 people, we're all asking ourselves some form of, am I safe to be myself in this group? And so when we are coming together, whether again, our kids, our students, ourselves, we need to answer that question for people to feel like they belong, for people to feel comfortable, for people, all the catchphrases, right? Authenticity and vulnerability and all, like, I love those things if you mean what they actually mean and not just the little catchphrase. But to really do that, we have to truly feel that we're able to be ourselves in this group safely. And that's a simple thing to do, but not an easy thing to do. Let me say that again. Easy and difficult is a different scale than simple and complex. Something can be really simple and quite difficult, and something can be really easy and quite complex, and vice versa. So I hope that's useful.
Well, this is great, and I'm looking at the clock and seeing that we don't have so much time. We might have to have a part 2. But what is that art and science? Like, sometimes I don't want to be the person who's making other people feel safe. Sometimes I just want to feel unsafe by myself until I'm made to feel safe, and I just want to take that back seat. But say I wanted more community, and I was feeling motivated, and I was feeling like I want to be that person, or I am in a leadership position and it is my job to create the safety. Like, what does that look like to shift from that experience of creating more invisibility by being together, versus, because I know that experience and I'm sure everybody relates to that, to it being a community building experience where there is that safety to be myself, where the answer is yes, it is safe. How do I learn that as a participant? How do I teach that as an instructor?
I would love to have a part 2 on this, and I am so invested in this teaching. If I was going to give a quick answer, perhaps a tease, the single most important thing to do is to realize human beings learn by doing and being part of something. So how can we take it from being a passive experience, just sitting there listening to the person up presenting, and make it an active experience where we are talking, we are doing, we are engaging in something. And again, there's lots of nuance there, but that would be my simplest way. It's like why an old school, sage on the stage kind of teaching format, the professor up in front giving a lecture, that works for a handful of people, maybe, but probably not as well as going through projects, building things, learning things, doing things together. So I think, again, that's an educational philosophy. That's a whole nother talk. But my first answer to that is being active. And then my second quick tangential point is lots of choice. Don't make people have their camera off or on or feel bad if they don't. Don't make people share or feel bad if they don't. It has to be open. People can connect as they're able to connect, when they're able to connect, and there has to be no judgment there, because that's what begins to have people feel safe to show up as they are. And I think a lot of us, like, when a camera's off, we judge that a certain way, or when someone doesn't share, we start to doubt ourselves as the facilitator, or if they're really even listening, and we have all this negative. So stop that. Like, again, it would be another section, but working with mostly at-risk kids for my career, the reasons why their camera is off is so much different than what you think. For many of them, it's because they're taking care of their 5 siblings and they live in a tiny trailer and it's messy and their dad might stumble by drunk from last night's binge and they don't want to be embarrassed to have the whole school see that. So they're paying attention, they're studying, they're focused, they're right there, but their cameras off for very valid reasons. But I see a lot of teachers and parents, they're just sitting there. They're probably not even in the room. They're probably on their phone messing around. They won't even turn on their camera for accountability. I'm like, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But I know in a lot of cases, the reason the camera's off is a lot different than what we think. So that's an example, I think. But I know the time is the time. So
yeah, I have so many questions. I have questions. And I'm excited to have a part 2. I guess I'm going to ask one question and then we're not going to answer it. And y'all going to have to come back for part 2. So the next step, the next question for me is, so we're giving these choices, we're making it safe, we're not forcing anyone to do anything, and we're inviting people to partake and participate. What takes it from that to people wanting to fill that space? How do you create a safety that they want to raise their hand and say, I'll go, or they want to have their cameras off and share if they can? Because I have been a part of, witnessed, seen, experienced so much where there is no volunteer, where every camera's off. We're in a room with people. Nobody's raising their hand. Nobody wants to go. The presenter ends up having to do it on their own or actually looking someone in the eye and ask them to come up to be the volunteer because nobody wants to be that person to go without the question answered. That question is brilliant, by the way, Freddie. Like, am I safe to be myself here? No one wants to go without that question answered, but also I don't know that we can answer it without first people, testing it and doing it. So it's kind of this. So I'd love your wisdom on that. So whoever wants an answer to that question, look forward to your part 2 because I'm not letting Freddie answer it. Although Freddie, you can break my rules. That's not true. I can shut down this recording. So I have a lot of power here. Freddie, if people want to reach out to you or find out more or connect more or join your community or whatever it is, they just want more Freddie Mendoza. How do they do that?
Wow. Excuse me. Freddy at nurturedheartinstitute.com is an easy email, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram or all of those lovely things. I would love to reach out. I would love to have this conversation with everybody all the time. Like, what an important conversation. So thank you for your questions, and I look forward to a part 2.